My first overnight shift as a registered nurse was on the palliative care wing. It was an old hospital, the kind where the silence feels heavy and every creak of the linoleum floor sounds like a footstep behind you. I was assigned to check on the patients every 2 hours. Most were asleep, their breathing soft and shallow in the dim light of their rooms. Then I got to room 303. The patient was an old man named Mr. Harrison. His chart said he was mostly nonverbal, lost in the fog of his final days. But when I entered his room, his eyes were wide open, staring at me with a terrifying clarity. The only light came from the hallway, casting long, distorted shadows across his gaunt face. "You're new," he rasped, his voice a dry crackle. It startled me so much I almost dropped my clipboard. "Yes, sir," I managed, forcing a professional calm. "I'm Sarah, just here to check on you." He shook his head slowly, a faint rhythmic motion against the pillow. "Don't let them see you," he whispered, his eyes darting towards the darkened corner of the room. A chill traced its way down my spine. "Who, Mr. Harrison?" I asked, playing along. I assumed he was hallucinating. "The others," he said, his voice dropping even lower. "The ones who stay. They walk the halls after the last visitor leaves. They stand at the foot of the beds and just watch." He paused, his breath hitching. "They're tall, and their joints bend the wrong way. They fold themselves into the corners to hide." His words were so specific, so utterly convinced that the hair on my arms stood on end. I tried to soothe him, offering him water, but he just kept staring at that empty corner. "They don't like the light, and they don't like noise, but they love the quiet. They love the stillness. That's when they come out to look for a new room." I finally managed to excuse myself, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I tried to shake it off as the ramblings of a dying man, but as I continued my rounds, his words echoed in my mind. The hallways seemed darker, the silence more profound. Every shadow seemed to stretch and twist in my peripheral vision. Around 3 a.m., I was at the central nursing station when a call light went off. It was for room 310 at the far end of the hall. The patient there had passed away peacefully that afternoon. The room was supposed to be empty. My blood ran cold. Protocol was to answer every call light, so with trembling hands, I picked up the intercom. "Hello? This is the nursing station." Silence. Then a sound came through the speaker that made me freeze. It was a soft, wet, clicking noise. It was followed by a low, guttural breathing and the distinct sound of something heavy being dragged slowly across the floor. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the intercom. It was distorted, impossibly deep, and it spoke only a single, chilling word: empty. I slammed the intercom off, my breath catching in a sob. I looked down the long, dark hallway towards room 310. For a split second, I saw it. A tall, impossibly thin shadow unfolded itself from the doorway of room 310. Its limbs moved at unnatural angles as it straightened to its full, towering height. It turned its head, a pale, featureless shape in the gloom, and seemed to look directly at me. Then it took a silent, deliberate step into the hall and began to make its way towards me, its form melting back into the oppressive darkness. I didn't wait to see it again. I ran, and I never went back.
I work as a mine rescue operative.
When a tunnel collapses, we're the ones who go down into the suffocating bark to find survivors. It's a dangerous job, but there are rules, protocols that keep you alive. And then there's the one rule they don't write in any manual, the one you learn from the old-timers with haunted eyes. If you're down in the deep dark and you hear something call your name, you don't answer. Ever. We were on a recovery mission in the old Blackwood mine, a place that had been sealed for 50 years before a company tried to reopen it. A survey team went in, they never came out. A section of the deep tunnels had collapsed, and our job was to find them, or what was left of them. The deeper we went, the colder it got. The air was stale, tasting of wet rock and something else, something metallic and wrong. We were nearly 2 miles in when our comms started acting up, crackling with static. That's when I first heard it. David. It was a whisper, seeming to come from the oppressive darkness just beyond the beam of my headlamp. It sounded like it was right next to my ear. I froze, my partner Marcus stopping beside me. "You hear that?" I asked, my voice tight. "What?" "Static's getting worse." He couldn't hear it. I tried to dismiss it, blaming the comms, the acoustics of the tunnel. But a few minutes later, I heard it again, clearer this time. "David, where are you?" It was a woman's voice, soft and pleading. It sounded just like my wife, Sarah. My blood turned to ice. Sarah was 300 miles away. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to answer, to call her name. But then I remembered the rule, the ashen face of my mentor, a man who'd lost half his team years ago, flashed in my mind. It uses what you love, Davy boy. It makes a voice from your memories. I stayed silent, my breathing ragged. Marcus gave me a worried look. "You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I lied, pushing forward. The whisper followed me, growing more desperate. "David, please, I'm scared. Why won't you answer me?" It started to sob, the sound echoing unnervingly in the tight space. It was exactly her cry, the one I'd heard when her mother passed. It was a sound that had broken my heart. Now it was being used to hunt me. We finally reached the collapse. The bodies of the survey team were there, scattered amongst the rubble. But something was wrong. They weren't crushed. Their faces were frozen in masks of sheer, abject terror, eyes wide, mouths open in a silent scream. And on the rock wall behind them, scratched into the stone, were messages. "Don't listen," one said. "It's not her," said another. The last one, written in what looked like blood, was just 2 words: "Too late." Suddenly, the sobbing stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. From the darkness ahead of us, a new sound began, a low, guttural clicking. Then, a voice, no longer mimicking my wife, but a dry, ancient, rasping sound that scraped at my sanity. "You were wise not to answer, David," it whispered, the sound now coming from all around us. "But we have their voices now," it hissed, this time in the perfect, terrified voice of Marcus's teenage son. "And we have all the time in the world." We got the house for a steal. It was a beautiful 2-story on Stillwater Lane, foreclosed and left empty for years. The neighbors were a little strange, offering curt nods instead of warm welcomes. On our first day, an old woman from across the street, Mrs. Gable, shuffled over. She clutched a worn wooden crucifix, and her eyes were filled with a deep, sorrowful pity. "You have children?" she asked, her voice a frail whisper. We nodded, telling her our 8-year-old daughter Lily was upstairs picking her room. The old woman's face fell. "The house gets lonely," she said, her gaze fixed on the upstairs window. "It likes to play. Just, if you hear a game of hide and seek, don't join in, and never ever look for the one who's hiding." She turned and shuffled away before we could ask what she meant. We dismissed it as the ramblings of a senile old woman, but the house did have its quirks. Doors would creak open on their own. We'd hear faint childlike giggles from empty rooms. We told ourselves it was just the house settling. The first time it happened, my wife and I were in the kitchen. Lily was supposed to be in the living room watching cartoons. We heard her clear as day from the hallway. "Ready or not, here I come," she sang. We smiled at each other. A moment later, a tiny, unfamiliar voice whispered from right behind us. "1, 2, 3. We spun around. The kitchen was empty. We rushed into the living room to find Lily sitting on the couch, completely engrossed in her show. She said she hadn't moved. The games became more frequent. We'd hear the counting, always from a different part of the house, always in that same strange, whispering child's voice. We'd find closet doors left ajar, or the crawlspace hatch in the hallway ceiling slightly open. Lily started having nightmares. She told us about her new friend, who she called Giggles. She said Giggles was the best at hiding, and that she'd never, ever been found. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I was working late in my home office when I heard the familiar sing-song taunt from upstairs. "Ready or not, here I come." It was Lily's voice, but Lily was at her grandmother's for the night. The house was supposed to be empty except for me. A cold dread washed over me. Then the whispering count began, echoing from the top of the stairs. 1, 2, 3. I remembered Mrs. Gable's warning. Never look for the one who's hiding. 7, 8, 9. I bolted the office door, my heart trying to beat its way out of my chest. My eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape, a weapon, anything. My gaze fell on the office closet. The door was cracked open, just a sliver. It hadn't been that way a minute ago. 10. The whisper came from right outside my office door. "Ready or not." And then, silence. My breath hitched. I could hear a soft, shuffling sound in the hallway, the sound of small, bare feet on hardwood. It stopped outside my door. I held my breath, praying it would go away. Then, from the closet inside the room with me, came a soft, triumphant giggle, and the closet door began to slowly swing open.